You can't keep living like this. You can't keep living as if you are the most disgusting, ugliest person to ever grace the planet. It's not going to help you. It's not serving the people around you, and it's not going to help you achieve your goals. What kind of life do you want to live? And you may think, it's just how I look. It's not, sweetie. It's not, I promise. It's more than that. It's deep inside of you. But there's a good news to that too, because that means you can change it. In this video, we're going to talk about why you think you're so ugly and how you can go about changing it. I want to caveat this by saying I am not a therapist. A lot of this stuff does need to be unpacked with someone with professional credentials who can actually talk to you about your individual needs and issues. I can't do that, not just because I'm not a therapist, but because you're not in front of me right now. We're just talking through a screen. I do think that these videos can be a good resource to supplement that work you're doing with yourself, but I don't want you to think it's the only resource. Please don't take any advice from me that has contradicted our medical professionals' advice. I don't know you, and I'm not a medical professional. To quickly introduce myself, my name is Charlotte. I'm into self-improvement, and a lot of that has to do with mindset work and getting your head right, because a lot of your success in life comes down to how you feel about yourself, and that's what we're here to unpack. So let's talk about why you feel like you're so ugly. The first thing I want to point out, the glaringly obvious, is I can't see you. So I can't convince you that you're beautiful or ugly from a physical perspective. We're not interacting. I can't tell you if your mannerisms and how you carry yourself and how you engage with other people is attractive. That would be disingenuous of me to say, and I'm not going to do that to you. What I will say is a few things. First, attraction is a very complicated aspect of human psychology. It's not just the physical that frequently draws people to you, but it's more than that. It's how you behave, how you treat other people, your perspective on the world, whether you're interesting, whether you're talented. There are so many musicians and actors who are like a little unconventional looking, but so many people find them attractive because of their talent and their personality and their quirks. Whether or not someone is ugly is very subjective because it comes down to a lot of je ne sais quoi. There's a lot of factors that we cannot name. But if you clicked on this video, you're probably just more focused on your own physical appearance. You're concerned that people won't find you attractive, you don't find yourself attractive. So I'm gonna try to keep it to that. And so I have two things to tell you in this sense. The first thing is, I actually can't remember the last time I looked at someone and thought, wow, that person's hideous. Like physically disgusting. I don't want to even stare at them for a second longer. That usually doesn't happen when we come across people. And if you think about it, it's because there's a lot of genetic variability. If you come from this idea of evolution and anthropology and how we have evolved over time in order to survive as a species, why would evolution, why would the planet make a hideous person if it wanted us to survive as a species? And that is why there's so much variability in what we find attractive in people. One person might find someone incredibly desirable while someone else is kind of repelled by that individual, and that there's a genetic component to that. Maybe their genetics are more compatible to procreate. Who knows? That is one school of thought you can go down if that comforts you. If you're more of a spiritual type rather than a scientific one, what I like to think about is the idea that our souls choose our body. Your soul decided that in all of your body's imperfections, this one was the one that it would become its best self in. Whatever lessons you had to learn in your lifetime, it happened because your soul chose this body, and we all treat each other differently based on how we look. It's an unfortunate reality of society and of human nature, really. You would not be the same person if you looked differently, because people would have treated you differently. You would have had different experiences. You would have had different exposures. You would be a different person with a different life experience if you were a different gender, if you were a different race, if you were a different sexuality, because you have experienced life through the lens of how other people have treated you in that regard. We are not in a post-racial, post-gender society. We treat each other differently. We have different expectations of people based on the categories that we fall into. I know that if I were a man, I probably would have different ideas about the world. Your soul chose your body for a reason. You learned something from your body because of how you move through the world. And that is something to be grateful for no matter who you are or what you look like. You can have insecurities no matter what you look like. It really doesn't matter how you look. Some of the most gorgeous people out there are the most insecure. A lot of celebrities talk about this. Megan Fox is considered one of the sexiest women in the world, and she talks about how she has body dysmorphia and she can't really truly see herself, and she struggles with incredible insecurities as a result of it. Bella Thorne has talked about it. Brie Larson has talked about it. There are so many celebrities that we consider the ideal or beautiful that feel ugly. They do not feel attractive enough. So I don't want you to think, I don't look like fill in the blank here. I don't look like this gorgeous supermodel here. I can't be confident. They're not confident either, babe. They need to do the same exact work you do. Their entire career is looking a certain way. Their entire career is appearing the most beautiful that they can be. Their livelihood depends on it. Imagine what that does to you. Imagine the standards you have to meet. It's almost impossible. When your job is being beautiful and beauty is subjective, I can't imagine the kind of criticism that they have to deal with and what they are putting their bodies through. I have a lot of empathy for that kind of situation. Let's talk about how you got this way. Why did you start to think you were ugly to begin with? Carl Jung was a Swiss psychologist who invented analytical psychology, and he had a theory that early life experiences influence our self-perception. His work delves into this idea that our unconscious mind, which is shaped significantly in our childhood, actually changes how we behave, how we think, and how we feel in adulthood. Let's say you experienced very negative comments about your appearance from your family members, from your peers, from people in your life when you were younger. This led you to form an inferiority complex around your appearance because you just kept hearing these thoughts inundating you over and over again, and they creeped into your subconscious mind, which was forming while you were a child. It doesn't really matter what you looked like at that time. You were a child. You're not supposed to be attractive. You're supposed to be a child. Jung coined this term, the shadow or the shadow self. Our shadow are the parts of ourselves that we repress. There are perceived weaknesses, there are shortcomings, there are insecurities. And part of the work of overcoming these unconscious beliefs in yourself that are holding you back from achieving your full potential is doing shadow work, and it's uncovering that repression. There are 4 core wounds when it comes to the shadow self: abandonment, betrayal, rejection, and shame. Now, when it comes to believing that you are not attractive, believing that you are ugly, those typically lie in the feelings of shame. It could also lie in abandonment and rejection because you think that because you are not attractive enough, people are going to reject you, people are going to leave you because you're just not enough for them. You don't look a certain way. You have reinforced this idea in your head over and over again that you are not worthy enough of having access to safety. How do we go about addressing these feelings? First, you need to become conscious of the stories that you've been told and have started telling yourself. Get really clear on the stories that you were told as a child. I know that a lot of people don't remember their childhood, but there are probably a few examples of a parent or an authority figure or a peer pointing something out to you that you had not previously thought about when you were younger, and it really stuck with you. I know I have a few of those. Write down those key moments that you can remember. What was the core message that person conveyed to you? Why did it surprise you? What did you think about before that about yourself? Did it never even occur to you that you looked differently than other people, or did you like how you looked before that? The next step is to decide how you feel about these stories. Do you agree with them? Do you disagree with them? You need to challenge them and reinterpret them in order to alter their impact on you. Sometimes your peers told you that you were ugly because they were competing with you or they were jealous of the attention you were getting. Sometimes the adults in your life were projecting their fears that you wouldn't achieve some milestone the way they did. I know our grandmothers were taught that their appearance was everything because they had to depend on a man liking them to survive. Literally, their livelihood depended on a man liking them and finding them attractive. And so they did things and they looked a certain way for men because the men were the ones with the money. So they may have been coming from a good place telling you that you need to change this or look this way because they knew from their experience that looking a certain way is how they survived. That is not our reality anymore, thank God. But understanding that is the first step. Was she coming from a good place? Hopefully. She wants you to have a comfortable life. She wanted you to do well for yourself. And for her, and in her experience, that meant you needed to attract a guy with resources. If we're challenging and reinterpreting this, we don't need to look a certain way anymore. We don't need to dress for men anymore. Next thing I need you to do is to address any of the compensatory behaviors that you are engaging in to quote unquote cover up your ugliness. I see this a lot with women in makeup. So I believe that makeup can be neutral or even self-expression. But when you are afraid to leave the house without makeup, that's not good. That's compensatory. That is you being afraid to show your true face, right? I think there is something to dressing up, looking good, feeling good. But if you are afraid to show people what you look like in your quote unquote natural form, then you're not feeling very confident in your appearance. You're worried about what people will think of you without makeup on your face. That's one example of compensatory behaviors that I see people engaging in. The other one could be working out excessively. You're afraid of looking a certain way or losing muscle mass or gaining weight, whatever it is that you fear. It's a compensatory behavior. I recommend challenging yourself not to overdo it, not to engage in these behaviors and see how you feel. Sit with the discomfort. You're also going to start to do mirror work. I want you to stare at yourself in the mirror every day, at least once. Do it more than once if you can. Really look at your face. Pick a spot and stare at your face. It could be one of your eyes. It could be your earlobe. It could be your mouth, whatever you want to pick. And I want you to say nice things about yourself that you believe. It doesn't have to be about your appearance. They're just nice things. You're hardworking. You care about the people in your life. You're trying to better yourself every single day. You're doing your best. You love people dearly. And then I want you to end it with, I love you. You may start crying while you do this. And that's okay. That is the shame leaving your body. I want you to do this every single day. I want you to do it as many times as you can after telling yourself something you believe that's nice and positive and good. You have been beating yourself up for so long that you don't even know what it feels like to be nice to yourself. And the truth of the matter is that you may consider yourself a very self-aware person, but if you are not also pointing out the parts of yourself that are good, if all you're doing is pointing out your flaws and where you need to improve, that's not self-awareness. You're just being mean to yourself. You're just being a bully. You are using this self-awareness as a guise to be mean to yourself, and you need to counteract it with kindness. And I have a video about self-compassion that you should check out next. So thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And I will see you in the next one. In the meantime, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing. It helps me out so much, and I love hearing from you guys. So I hope this helped.